This is your brain on risk. This is Mind Over Money, the podcast where Kevin Cook exposes the psychology of investing.
Welcome back to Mind Over Money. I'm Kevin Cook, your field guide and storyteller for the fascinating arena of behavioral economics. One of the most exciting areas in economics and behavior right now is electric vehicles, because it just combines so many passions and interests and volatile emotions about whether you want electric vehicles to prevent climate change, or you just like the coolness of owning a Tesla or something else. I recently did a presentation for Zach's Ultimate members where I explained why I think Elon Musk will go down in history as almost single-handedly disrupting auto and energy markets. I say almost because he, of course, did not do this without an army of talented auto and battery engineers and software developers. And that's another credit to the Maverick that NASA also calls a partner in some top tiers of technology. Musk knows how to recruit and unleash the world's top engineering talent. And my conviction that Musk should get lots of credit is backed up by the large investors who have owned Tesla stock and continue to own it with high conviction. I'm talking like Ron Barron, Bailey Gifford, the giant Scottish investment fund from Edinburgh. They own Tesla, and they only sell shares when their profits get too big and it becomes too big a part of their portfolios. And then, of course, Cathie Wood of ARK Invest, who had the crazy high price targets on Tesla a couple of years ago and got me interested. Like, why does she see that Tesla could be a multi-$1,000 stock? And it's because she thinks that Tesla will own ride sharing or ride hailing with autonomous driving, that they're going to own that space. Recently, they just upped their price target. They basically doubled their price target from 1,400 to up near 3,000. And that's probably because they see that other investors are getting the idea of what Tesla could be worth. So they're sort of joining the fray, and that's why everybody's paying 10 times sales for Tesla, who just reported a really strong quarter, and I think they delivered 200,000 cars in the quarter, so that's awesome. So, there's the crazy genius aspect of Elon, too. I mean, he definitely leaves investors scratching their heads sometimes, like when he makes erratic tweets about his cars, his factories, or his Bitcoin holdings. And don't even get me started on the phony crypto Dogecoin soap opera. Now, for my taste, I thought the Cybertruck was a little bit over the edge, just a strange distraction from his core business. And I haven't studied it enough, but I did start looking into it lately. But at first I was like, how big could the market be for that thing? And indeed, it reminded me of the Volkswagen Thing from the 1970s. I'm a kid of the 70s, so look up the Thing and you'll see what I mean. So if you hear me slip up and call the Cybertruck the cyber thingy, you know what I mean. Well, there's a new cyber threat in town. And yes, I'm talking about the Ford F-150 Lightning. I did my Cook's Kitchen video and article last week on this new beauty, and the piece is titled, "The F-150 Lightning Will Crush the Tesla Cybertruck." Now, why would I say something so bold? Well, I looked at this truck up and down. Now, I don't know all the features and the specs of the Cybertruck, but I took a close look at the F-150 Lightning, and I decided it's got just enough of the right stuff. So, and let me just read off a few of the things that stood out to me when you're looking at this thing as a truck, and then I'll explain. So with the deluxe model, the bigger battery, you've got 10,000 pounds of max towing capacity, 775 pound-feet of torque, up to 300 miles of range, 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds, onboard electric power for all your work tools and adventure toys with 11 outlets, 9.6 kilowatts of backup power to offboard and power your house, maybe up to 3 days, assuming the truck battery is charged, And then fully connected vehicle intelligence for range, load, and charging calculations. Deluxe model will come with a 15-inch touchscreen where you can calculate your range based on your load, when you need to charge next, are you towing, and then a towing package, which sounds incredible too. So Ford went all out to make this. Like, I'm saying that if Apple built a truck, the F-150 Lightning would be its first edition in terms of, connected intelligence. And I don't know how elaborate the charging network is, but apparently the Ford Pass is going to be your app where you're going to be able to connect and pay and that sort of thing. So there's a $40,000 base price. You don't get any bells and whistles with that. But here's my theory so the F-150 is already the workhorse of trade contractors and some commercial fleets. Now, how many of them are going to try this and adopt it? I think enough to make it a winner. That, a few trade contract, you see a plumber with it, a carpenter, and then a commercial fleet picks up, 20, 50, 100 of them. Then that's going to start turning heads. And it's got enough of the right features right now and capability that I just think it's going to be a huge winner. This is what I told my Taser Trader members recently when we bought Ford, just for this reason. This really is a killer move by Ford, because if you can sell a hard-nosed, no BS contractor on the EV work truck, you've won a huge, credible market that spills over to their friends and family. Now, Ford is projected to grow sales 20% to over $150 billion next year, and so it's trading under 0.5 times sales at a $55 billion market cap. Meanwhile, bloated Tesla is trading at 9.5 times next year's projected $66.5 billion top line. Now, that's 35% growth for Tesla, but still the valuation disparity is incredible. So I just thought, I want to buy Ford. I think this truck is going to kill it. I could be wrong. So to check my biases, which I always like to do, I brought in my favorite car guy expert, Dave Bartosiak, who Dave has owned a few Corvettes, a few Mustangs, and now he's working on some new muscle car project that I don't even understand. But Dave, welcome to the program.
Oh, thanks for having me.
We can find you on Twitter at Bartosiastics, right?
That's right. Just starts with a B and just keeps on going.
Yeah, Bartosiastics. Look for him. Dave has done some cool stuff in the car world, and he's going to try and do some more new stuff. I mean, I see all these YouTubers talking about cars, and they've got 1 million views. I think Dave knows his stuff. He should be doing videos every week and have like 10 million views.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Speaking of Twitter, if you heard those birds chirping in the background, I have to apologize. My kids have some new chicks, but I just kicked them out, so we won't hear them anymore. And the other thing about Twitter is I want to talk about the CEO of Ford, Farley. Jim Farley seems to come out of nowhere, but actually he'd been working for Ford for so long. So we'll come back to him. But Dave, am I wrong when I say that this pickup truck becomes a new tech platform that could outsell the Tesla Cybertruck?
Absolutely, it could, for sure. What Ford is trying to do is rather ambitious. But this isn't something that started yesterday either. They've been laying down the foundation for their EVs for a long time. And I think that was part of the reason for that multi-year sort of malaise that Ford stock had, where it just kind of chopped sideways for a long time because they're just kind of looking for what they were going to do next. But they invested a ton of money in the EV space doing R&D. And I think shortly they will begin to reap some of those benefits, but they are still facing a rather uphill challenge, an uphill battle, I believe.
Yeah. Now, see, I did not know how hard they had been working behind the scenes on this. So I'm glad to hear you say that, because it seems like what they just rolled out with this F-150 Lightning in May, like they really did do their homework.
They did it for a very long time. They talked about this. There's sort of a lot of the auto manufacturers, they started to see the writing on the wall that the old model of, basically just how people grow up, right? You turn 16, you buy a car, you go out to college, you bring it with you, and then you buy another one when you get your first job, and you're living out in the suburbs, and you need it to get around, and then your wife, you get a car, your partner gets a car, your kids need cars. It's just it kind of changed, where millennials weren't so keen on buying cars, they didn't want it, and then now they start to get worried about the environmental impacts of all that diesel and all that regular gas that's out there. So they had to shift their focus on not just making cars that were profitable, but what was the future of mobility, and what does that look like, not just in an urban setting, but also in the suburbs and in a rural setting, and how can they make an impact across all of these areas while still keeping the tradition of their cars there, but still keeping one eye on the future and working towards dropping those emissions. And a lot of these emission standards get put out there by the companies themselves. They'll set these targets, but they're not as stringent as if the European Commission comes in and says, hey, you better have all these cars under this FPG, miles per gallon, or else, or another country comes in and says, that's it, no diesel cars, right? So, but overall, these companies knew that was coming. So whether it was Ford, whether it was BMW, whether it was Daimler, everybody knew and was starting to make these investments. But they kind of sat back and allowed Tesla to go ahead and run out there first and stumble a little bit and go through the growing pains. And they kind of quietly sat back and took notes on what they were doing right and what they were doing wrong, and use their giant machines and their know-how over decades of building cars to try and find the right entry into these spaces. And Ford's really never done it, but you had GM's done it a few times, right? They had their Volts that came out, their Bolts, and it wasn't there a little known, like, there was a GM EV back in the early 90s even that fell flat on its face that nobody really talks about. So I think with Ford, they didn't want to take the risk. They allowed Tesla to take that risk, sat back, and now this is a calculated move on their behalf to show a little bit of what they think is going to be the future. And it is interesting they're doing it in the truck space, specifically for the F-150, and they didn't rebrand it really, still an F-150. As opposed to, when they made the Mach-E, that was kind of a new vehicle altogether, making a crossover that's electric from the Mustang. But the F-150 going towards their traditional core business is something that I think is revolutionary in the way that car manufacturers are now thinking about their existing customer base. They're not waiting and seeing if the customer base is going to change. They're putting change right in front of them and saying, go ahead and grab it, because this is where we're going.
Right. I just think it was such a beautifully timed move by Jim Farley. And I don't really know if he was the spearhead of the EV move, but boy, the way they rolled it out. And here's the thing. I published this piece, and it wasn't just clickbait. I mean, I really think that the Lightning is going to outsell the Cybertruck. That's just what I believe.
Yeah, I don't think that'll be.
But here's the thing: is you talked about how good Ford was at like planning this, and how obviously they've got deep expertise in manufacturing and R&D. But the reaction that I got from people on Twitter and on StockTwits was, people who are obviously Tesla fanatics think that, oh no, Ford will never pull this off. They're too invested in the ICE, the internal combustion engine. They have no expertise here. And don't you think that's wrong? Don't you think they've proven that they've really done the homework here?
Yeah, I mean they've done the homework, but really you're getting tweets because your blue collar F-150 guy isn't on Twitter waiting to argue with somebody about Cybertruck.
Right.
Okay? Not there. Right. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. That's not where you're going to get your market research from, is millennials arguing with you on Twitter. But, guys that I know that have pickup trucks, like the real hardcore pickup truck guys, like they still want those dualies. Everybody wants a dually.
Yeah.
With, a diesel engine that can tow a bunch that's big, that's awesome, right? That's kind of the dream, pickup truck that's out there. And why do they like that? Well, they like it partially because of the sound, for sure, but it's all that torque that pickup offers. So that's something you're going to get here with an electric F-150. Now, yes, performance-wise, if you stack it up with the Cybertruck, it's going to hit it head on, right? I mean, one's not going to completely outperform the other, but I think if you're trying to sell a Cybertruck in Birmingham, Alabama to a contractor,
right,
versus selling an F-150 that's electric when the guy's had F-150s his entire career and his dad drove an F-150, I think it's a little easier to sell.
Yeah, and
Ford.
It's going to take some first movers, some early adopters, I guess is what I'm saying. But Ford made it easy because they made it look just like the traditional F-150. So,
right.
So some early adopters can sneak into it and like, hey, you don't even know if this is electric or not, do you?
They sold 900,000 F-1 last year. If they sell 1% of their cars as electric, they'll sell more than the Cybertruck will sell. But now, that's really not what the competition is, right? I mean, who cares if Ford outsells a power? I don't think Ford is even worried about outselling the Cybertruck.
Yeah. And you said that you think that Ford and Farley just sort of sat back and watched the Cybertruck, and in a sense they did, but they were already working on something. Because I when I watched the unveiling in May, I went back and watched the presentation from Dearborn on YouTube, and I think they said they'd been at it 3 years. So Cybertruck has come out within that time. So yeah, they got to sit back and watch. And then Farley is so funny. If you find him on Twitter, so he's at Jim Farley 98, and I'm not sure what the 98 is for, but he says Mustang and racing fan, CEO at Ford, happen to love white vans, preferably down by the river.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah. Now I did not know that the late great Chris Farley, the comedian, that they were actually cousins. So,
no, I didn't.
Yeah, that was. I thought he was just. I thought he was just paying homage, in a funny way to Chris Farley, but it turns out that they're actually cousins. So that's pretty wild.
But another was at a dinner, in a ballroom, I guess, with him once.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, actually, just a few months ago at Amelia Island, they have a Concourse d'Elegance in Jacksonville. And he was there along with the CFO of GM.
Okay.
So I've seen him in the flesh.
See, I wasn't lying when I said you were elbows deep with the car guys.
Yeah, I get in there. I get in there sometimes.
Another funny thing that they said in the Ford promo stuff for the Lightning when they rolled it out is, and it's designed to look like a truck because that's what it is.
Yeah, unapologetically.
A little dig at the cyber thingy. I'm all gaga about the Lightning, but did they make some mistakes with even in the top end battery selection? Is the range at 300 miles? Is that too low?
I don't think it's too low. Most of these jobs are in and around town. You're not going on the road very far when you're doing these jobs. So I don't think that's going to be that the range is going to be a problem at all. But there's going to be certain, if there's the guy that likes to take his truck and tow his boat somewhere, on the weekend, and it's kind of far out, if he goes on a 3 or 4 hour trip and likes to tow his boat, obviously this is not going to be the market for him. I think initially they're going to be looking at what you said is these contractors that are, in and around town, and construction workers and things like that, where this is their daily. That's who they're targeting. So it's existing F-150 owners, just kind of pushing them over to the electric side, letting them at least try it and see how it is. And it's not unlike. I mean, we talked offline about this. It's not unlike Harley Davidson with their Livewire and their electric offering. They didn't bring an electric offering to try and get new customers that wouldn't try an electric bike before. They wanted to go at existing Harley riders and say, hey, why don't you try this? It's electric. Now, granted, that hasn't been so great for them, but the F-150 is a little different niche that they're going after.
Hey, now let's talking about competition. I did not even know anything about this Rivian until Jeff Bezos drove it across the tarmac to go up into space in one of his rockets. This Rivian, this seems like it's got a shot for some sales too. I don't think it's going to have the same appeal to the contractor and the commercial fleet, but this could be a winner too.
So I think the Rivian's a little bit smaller.
Yeah,
it's sort of like in your compact. So this is more in line like the Ford Ranger size, the Chevy Colorado. I think it's in that size, but it happens to be electric. So this is another tech guru, right? Because this is Jeff Bezos's baby,
right?
Who's behind this one. So I don't know. This could just be a vanity project for Bezos, to be honest with you. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
But the numbers are similar to what you're going to see with everybody else, but they do believe that you can go 400 miles on a charge with their top spec, and their low end is 230 miles. So they're all kind of in the same area where anywhere from $40,000 to $70,000. I think the Rivian starts at 70, so it's a little bit more expensive, but. Again, getting back to this whole notion of the brand loyalty that these people have, it's like, are you going to buy a Rivian, a company who's never built a car before? Build quality with cars is a big deal, right? It's a huge deal. And when people, if you're going to spend $70,000 on a car that is made by a company that's never made a car before, you got to be a little bit more patient.
Yeah.
Everybody over there, it's a cult, and they'll deal with it, right? I don't know how many people have that loyalty to Jeff Bezos.
Right.
He doesn't have the same sort of panache that Elon does. They kind of paint him a little bit more negative light, So I don't know that he has that sort of cult following that's going to deal with any sort of build issues. And again, I'm totally speculating here, right? Maybe they build it perfectly and it's wonderful, okay? But that's the risk heading in with a new company like that is, how's the build quality going to be? Now there's a few other big pickups. Like eventually we all know GM's going to make a Silverado EV, right? But they're going to be a little bit behind on that. But have you heard of the GMC Hummer EV?
I just did today when I was doing a little homework here on YouTube and looking at some things. I do not know anything about the Hummer EV.
Yeah, so basically, this has been in the works for a while. GMC wanted to sort of revive the Hummer badge and thought it'd be kind of cheeky, to be honest, instead of, because those Hummers were the gas guzzling, just pinnacle of excess, and forget about the environment. I'm getting 4 miles per gallon.
Right.
That the rappers loved in the early 2000s, and now they've replaced that with this EV. Now, I'll admit, I put a deposit down because it was only $100. So I put a deposit down on the Hummer EV, and when I was in Amelia Island, I saw it. They had 2 of them there, and my girl turns to me and she goes, "You're not really getting that, are you?" So. It was not as easy on the eyes as I'd like it to be. The proportions were a little out of sorts, but they'll have a pickup version of that and an SUV version, which is kind of weird. But that's supposed to have 350 miles of range and 1,000 horsepower equivalent. So, again, that's not a car that's going to compete with the F-150. That's sort of a niche, I think, that and I don't know who's in that niche.
Right. I mean, everything that I look at when I look at the Lightning is like
somebody's there, right?
It's built for work. It's like the thing's got outlets like crazy, right? So listen, I gotta have a table saw. I gotta have a fan. Whatever you need to hook up electrically, you got to run a generator. I mean, it'll be interesting to see, can you go to a job site run some of your power tools, and then, you're always going to have enough juice to get home or get to the charging station. That's what a contractor is going to be skeptical about. The other interesting thing is when you look at the price ranges. So what did Ford do? They sort of copied Elon with the just under 40,000 for the base model. Mm-hmm. And what I've sort of learned is that if a commercial fleet wants to try out 20 or 50 of them, they might just go with the base model, no bells and whistles.
Oh yeah, they're always
and see where it's at. Yeah, and the trade contractor, he's going to want to move up, and okay, I want the bigger battery. So then he's already over 50,000, and then he wants the platinum features, which is sort of like the F-150 Super Crew. They got, you see that you can fold down the gear shifter and then roll out a flat desk for your laptop and work.
Right.
I think that's awesome. I mean, we have a 2015 Suburban. I can't do anything with my laptop in it.
We got to sit in the back.
Yeah. So I just think that there's enough features here, even if they didn't get a couple of things right, they're going to win that key market of hard-nosed, no BS work guys.
I do, but I think it's going to take a long time.
You do? Okay. Yeah. See, that when I first pitched this to you, you were skeptical about how long we have to wait to see this really take off. So what's your skepticism here?
It's just, people don't trust new technology.
Okay.
Just in general, right? You got your own, when you're in an old school type business, right? Think about, heck, I have mechanic friends, right, that use air guns, and they swear by the air gun. Now, they make battery operated impact wrenches now that have more torque than any air gun that you're going to get, but they still haven't all shifted over to that electric torque wrench, right? Because they're so used to the air guns because they've been doing it that way for 20 years. So why would they go ahead and all of a sudden shift, to this new one, right? So there's a little bit of that, and that's not out of like ignorance, right? This is just out of how I've been doing it, and it works for me. So why should I switch it up, right? So there's that. I could totally see a scenario where we get, the EU has come in already, and they have really been tough on emission standards. So, for example, Rolls-Royce has 4 models, or had 4 models. They're getting rid of one of them because the EU now has stopped them from using gas to cool the cylinder temperatures on their V12 that's in the Wraith and the Dawn. They're going to electrify the Dawn, so they had to get rid of one of the models in order to bring the overall average of the miles per gallon down, right? So anyway, but the point of that is it's the EU that pushes this, right? So a lot of these pushes towards electronic vehicles doesn't come here in the US. It comes from Europe. I could see a scenario where you get pushback from domestic manufacturers and people here in the US on Europe trying to tell us what we're going to do with our cars, and thereby sticking with the internal combustion engines for a little bit longer than what you're going to see in Europe. A little bit of a more, for me, that's kind of like it's perfect to be on your behavioral economics podcast, right? That's a behavior back to sort of the political movement that we've seen recently, of a more, it's not exactly MAGA, right? But just, this is how a little bit more conservative mindset where it's like, I've been doing it like this. It's great like this. I'm not changing because somebody else wants me to change it. Mm-hmm, right. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I'm getting at. I could see a little bit of a pushback there from domestic manufacturers, or just from the customer base here. The ones who've been buying the cars for a while. As for, attracting new buyers coming in, I still think if you if you're a contractor, you're starting your own business, I don't know that you're going to roll the dice on a new electric car until it's been proven that, hey, this thing is just way better than what you're doing there.
Right.
But is it going to be worth the price though? Because even, your base model trim electric Lightning here, F-150 Lightning, is going to be the same as a little higher trimmed of the gas powered one.
Yes.
So, it's making that much more of a difference. And that's what's going to be the argument. Why should I get a Lightning if I can get the Lariat and be fully, or the King Ranch, and be fully hooked up with everything, all luxury, wonderful, for the same price as that, when the interior is, not as good.
How about the torque? I haven't seen the Ford jump off the line, but I watched a video today of the Rivian, and so these things are they're all wheel drive, right? This guy is sitting in the dirt or the sand and he punches it, and you just watch the truck almost jump to lurch forward, right? With that instant torque, no delay.
And that's very exciting, and my sister has a Model 3.
Okay.
And at the time I had a Z06 Corvette, and they're like, "Oh, it's so fast, you got to feel this." And I'm like, "Okay, kids, hop in the car." Like,
right.
I get it, and if you've ever been in a golf cart, it gets up pretty quick too. But there's so much more to the fun of a car than just how quickly it pushes you from a stop. Right.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I'm not even talking about the performance so much, but I would think a contractor would also like the ability to, if he's got a payload and he's towing something, to make, like that he can move.
Oh, for sure.
Up a grade even,
Absolutely.
The other thing you mentioned, Europe and sort of the, global policy and that sort of thing. Another advantage that Ford has with Farley is he was the CEO and chairman of Ford Europe for like 2 years. Mm-hmm. And then he did global markets for, until 2020. So I think he probably has that global understanding and connections in Europe, and maybe he can, navigate whatever policies come down the pike.
Yeah, and I think Ford overall historically has done better in Europe than Chevy has. Like Focus is a very popular car out there. They have some motorsport history behind that too. And that's not, you don't see a lot of Corvettes driving around Europe, right? Although I guess you don't see too many Mustangs either, but it's just Ford has been sort of on that global space, I think, a little bit more than, Chevy and GM have.
Oh, one more awesome feature that I forgot about the Lightning as a truck becomes a tech platform is I mentioned connected intelligence, but they also copied the Tesla thing of live software updates, right? Like if we need to upgrade the software or fix a bug, you don't have to take it in anywhere. It's just a download to upgrade your software and potentially continuous feature improvements, right? I'm sure that's what Elon has in mind.
Yeah, they all have this idea of, hey, for a small subscription fee, we can give you this rear wheel steering in your new car to make it a little bit more agile. That's what you're going to see. There's going to be a lot of modularity that comes where you'll be able to add features to your car and then kind of get rid of them and give them back, versus having to buy the actual, the trim that includes that, which will be stickier money for the manufacturer. And I think they'll be able to have sort of a more consistent kind of revenue stream in addition to just selling the car. So I think everybody starting to lean towards these, subscription-based models. Porsche has talked about it also, where they're going to unveil that. And they've, we didn't talk about them too much because their EV is more of a performance EV. They're not in the pickup space, but all around the world, these auto manufacturers are hopping into this,
I'm surprised you didn't get is it pronounced Taycan?
Taycan.
I'm surprised that you didn't go for that.
Yeah, I looked at it. I have a buddy with the Turbo S version of it and it's just that it's so insanely fast. It's just ridiculous. And it's I guess it's not as easy on the eyes as I wanted. And the other thing is just that me and the Porsche dealer have just not seen that common ground yet, where they're not trying to get every single penny out of me, So
Right.
we're gonna get there eventually. Well, they'll give a little bit, but for now we're standing. Especially now, do not buy a car now anywhere because they are not going to give you an inch. Right?
No, nothing's in stock because of the chip shortage, right?
And that is going to continue for the foreseeable future. I mean, I think Elon talked about it in the call that that was part of the reason they're pushing back the semi truck is because he's continued slack there, which is no good when you're just talking for all these manufacturers. It's not good. It's good for the car dealers because they're selling used cars like hotcakes, but it's really bad. It's tough for them to find inventory. It's getting a little bit better now, but overall, the new car sales. I mean, we still have. It's going to be interesting to see how that all plays itself out once these chips finally get back into the marketplace.
Yeah. Now you mentioned how these EV guys with your connected, intelligent, smart vehicle the manufacturers can create a SaaS subscription, right? And get you on a monthly subscription for whatever. I could be wrong, but I think when I watched the Ford rollout in May, they said that all this would be free. Now that's something to verify, but I think they might have said that. So I got one last question for you. Another little feature I was impressed with was the digital tow hitch capabilities. And what I mean is basically you can hook up your boat or your trailer by yourself because you've got some digital assist. And I think that's awesome. Should every EV truck be able to do that?
I mean, it would be a great feature to have.
Yeah. Ford's bringing it right away.
Anything you could do to make towing easier and safer is good because that's, and I'm always amazed by, you don't need a special license to hook up a $10,000 trailer and tow it, or a 10,000 pound trailer and tow it wherever you want to go. Right? Just if you have a regular driver's license, you're good. Just go ahead and hit it. So
you're saying any idiot can do it, right?
Yeah, which is terrifying. If you think about it. If you've ever had any experience moving around a trailer, it is.
Well,
it is
I did. I don't have a boat, but we have a big horse trailer, and I've hauled at least 2 big horses, and yeah. I had to have sway bars on there, and there were times where, man, I did not even want to go over 50 miles an hour on the highway just because the way I felt that thing moving, especially if the horses start moving.
Sure. Yeah, it's terrifying. But, you'll have the capacity to tow it, at least with any of these EVs. And that's kind of the great part about the nature of these electronic motors is you have that instant torque like you talked about before. And it's the other thing is because you control each wheel with software, they're actually very safe in terms of, keeping them on the road and not slipping while they're, you're trying to go straight. Yeah. Make a turn or whatever, they can easily slow things down or speed things up however they need be by each wheel. So it's pretty cool. That's why a lot of these new performance electric vehicles are so insane. It's not just about having the power, but it's the ability to put that power down to the road with this torque vectoring that they have now.
Right.
It's amazing.
So you went ahead and put a hundo down on your Hummer EV reservation.
I did.
I have not pitched the idea to my wife about how much I love this F-150 Lightning, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and they want just $100 deposit too.
Yeah.
And because I think that this could work because my wife is definitely a fan of the sunk cost effect. So once she realizes I actually put $100 down on it, then she'll start looking at it and she'll start evaluating it. But if I don't have any money on the line, she won't.
You got a whole year to sell her on it.
Right, right.
You got to show the stunt about the F-150 prototype towing a freight train filled with F-150s.
Right. and I'll have it. The ads will pop up every time she's on the web and the videos, and she'll just be immersed in it.
Well, Google's listening now, right? So
right.
It's definitely. What's her favorite color?
Well,
you better know this one, buddy.
Yeah. Well, in a vehicle, it varies. We've got a blue Suburban, we got a black Suburban, so I gotta find out what they got.
Yeah, you find her.
All right, Dave. Well, thanks for coming on the show and setting me straight on all things EV and truck. Always appreciate your experience and wisdom. Yeah. And we'll have to reevaluate this in about 6 months and see, because who knows? Maybe Ford doesn't meet production targets or the chip shortage or whatever, and we don't see any Lightnings or Rivians next year.
Yeah, it's tough to tell if the chip shortage will work itself out. I believe it will eventually, and you're going to end up seeing these cars on lots and rolling around quicker than anybody thinks, I believe. But in the meantime, we'll just have to wait and see.
All right, so we'll revisit this again in about 6 months and see who's selling trucks and who's not. Thanks again, Dave.
Thanks for having me.
This material is being provided for informational purposes only, and nothing herein constitutes investment, legal, accounting, or tax advice, or a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold a security. Do not act or rely upon the information and advice given in this podcast without seeking the services of competent and professional legal, tax, or accounting counsel. Publication and distribution of this podcast is not intended to create, and the information contained herein does not constitute an attorney-client relationship. No recommendation or advice is being given as to whether any investment or strategy is suitable for a particular investor. It should not be assumed that any investments in securities, companies, sectors, or markets identified and described were or will be profitable. All information is current as of the date herein and is subject to change without notice. Any views or opinions expressed may not reflect those of Zacks Investment Research as a whole.